Question number 2, Andrew Little.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. Does he have confidence in his Minister for Building and Housing, given that since 2013 the number of owner-occupied homes has fallen by 7,000, while the number of rentals has increased by 14,000?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes, and I'd point out the member wants to cherry-pick from that particular data set. Then you should just go back one more year to 2012 and he'll see that since then the number of owner-occupied homes has risen by 20,000 and the number of rentals has decreased by 2,000, which just shows you that the Labour Party like to be quite selective with their data.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question. Order. Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
What was the average house price in Auckland when he came to office, and what is it now?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I don't have that information, but you'd have to put it down to the Minister of Housing and have that.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
A point of order, Andrew Little.
I seek leave to table a data series from Quotable Value, which is not publicly available, that shows the average Auckland house price has increased by $440,000 from $500,000 to $940,000 under the national government.
The document's been very well described, and on the basis that it's not freely available, I will put the leave. A leave is sought to table that particular information. Is there any objection? There is none that can be tabled.
Supplementary.
Andrew Little, supplementary question.
Is he happy that since the Bright Line test and IRD number rules were introduced last year, Auckland house prices have risen by $1,750 a week on average?
The Mr Speaker,
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
firstly would want to fact check the member, but secondly, Mr Speaker, the Bright Line test is simply one measure that's been in place. And in fact, the opposition finance spokesman in the weekend I thought was talking quite positively about the Bright Line test.
So price is only one measure.
Order. Supplementary question, Jami-Lee Ross.
Supplementary question to the Prime Minister. Has the Prime Minister received any reports of house price inflation between 1999 and 2008 in Auckland?
Order. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I have, and house prices doubled into that period of time, and the actions taken by the government of the day back then were absolutely zero.
Supplementary.
Order.
Who built houses?
Order. Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
No, you were.
Coming forward 8 years to today,
Order.
does he still agree with this statement? Quotes, "We are facing a severe home affordability and ownership crisis. The crisis has reached dangerous levels in recent years and looks set to get worse."
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, at the time that I made it, yes.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
In light of that quote from him in 2007, does he seriously believe he has done enough to address the crisis he declared when under his watch Auckland house prices have increased by $440,000, home ownership has fallen to its lowest level in 65 years, and record numbers of New Zealanders are now living in cars and garages?
The Right Honourable Prime
Mr
Minister.
Speaker, home ownership rates have been declining since the mid-1980s, a point made by the Productivity Commission when they looked at it. But Mr Speaker, I just make simply the point that there's been a tremendous number of steps taken by the government. We know that it's a lagging indicator, but today we saw record numbers of consents again, 28,000. Mr Speaker, 40 houses are being built a day in Auckland, 154 special housing areas. As was pointed out earlier, the Bright Line test has been introduced. 12,000 families have been supported through KiwiSaver Homestart. Mr Speaker, yes, of course, there's some catch-up, but that catch-up's happening as a result of confidence in the economy and low interest rates under a national-led government.
Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Has blaming the councils, blaming Labour, blaming the Greens, blaming New Zealand First, and generally saying the buck stops with anywhere but with him, done anything to boost home ownership in New Zealand?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I'm not quite sure we've blamed all of those people, but Mr Speaker, what is true is that under Labour, house prices doubled and it was a complete failure. That's just a statement of fact. It's not an apportionment of blame.
It's only
Supplementary.
8 years on, John.
Order.
Yeah, that's right.
Order. 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 Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Mr Speaker, after 8 long years and $440,000 of house price increases in Auckland, isn't it time to stop the excuses, Stop coming up with half-baked, half-hearted measures and just adopt Labor's plan to implement a national policy statement on affordable housing, abolish the Auckland urban growth boundary, stop foreign speculators and build thousands of affordable homes for Kiwis.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Labor Party doesn't have a plan, it has a pipe dream. And in fact, the last time I looked, rapidly, the Labor Party was adopting the National Party plan. I think over time we'll find that they'll get there on all of these wonderful things that we're doing. So Phil can't come up with his own ideas, may as well just have ours.
Question. Order. Question number 3.